these decisions and movements by the administration seem quite logical, if not predictable, because Donald Trump is going to attempt to rehabilitate, and pardon Vladimir Putin and Russia and his whole regime as much and as quickly as it is possible, while at the same time arguing with former President Biden's ability to issue pardons, but that may be a separate conversation. Nonetheless, Donald Trump is, well, he is, I guess it is part of the story, because Donald Trump is embracing political attacks on his political opponents, which is so Russian, really, when you think about it. So that's another indication of how closely the current administration is aligned with the Russian administration. As far as what any particular thing that can happen during this call or this meeting or that meeting, on one hand, we see that half of them do not occur, but on the other hand, we now have a strong perception that America, as far as its president and Putin, have a strong relationship. That message has been, I feel, conveyed very thoroughly to us, to the point that now majority of Americans disapprove of how closely our president is aligned with Russia and Russian policies, in part because of what's happening with Ukraine, but not just because of what's happening with Ukraine. So Donald Trump is going to show that he has meetings or constant contact with Vladimir Putin. I'm sure that he is on that White House is now on the constant contact. It reminds me of a business that specializes in newsletters. I'm sure there's a newsletter that's comes out from Kremlin that is now received regularly in the White House, and our director of national intelligence can put it in a form of a briefing for the president. So they're all on the same page. It's just that Europe and Ukraine ended up being left outside of that room. But perhaps that's not the room where the actual decisions are being made. That's where people are dividing things that they do not own. Russia and America, United States, arguing about what it doesn't belong to them, such as Ukraine or Europe or other parts of the world. But that's the process that unfortunately we have to live through, because we are dealing with people who have no understanding of consequences for their actions. And until there are consequences for Putin and for Trump, they're going to keep pushing their line of thinking, trying to say that white is black, black is white, and if you disagree, then I guess you're crazy. But I think reality is going to prove their realism wrong.
Okay, Yuri, but we have another important question. Trump mentioned he'll discuss territorial issues and control over the nuclear power plant with Putin. Yesterday, Waltz suggested some territories might be exchanged for security for Ukraine, but Ukraine firmly rejects giving up any territories. Could the US really be considering trading parts of Ukraine's sovereign land?
Well, it depends. If Ukraine is part of the United States, then I suppose yes, but I don't see United States trading Alaska to Russia for good relations, even though Russia would be very happy to get Alaska back. So I don't think that we're talking about realism here, or realistic or reality here. We're talking about what's happening in the minds of people who feel like they own the situation. And if it is truly so, and that is what's going to be happening, then Putin is getting everything he wants. And B, where is the pressure from the United States on Putin of any sort? Because even the statement about security guarantees, I'm afraid that all Ukrainians, when they think of security guarantees from the United States, think of Budapest Memorandum and think of security guarantees that memorandum or agreement was supposed to give, at least as far as Ukrainians believed it did. They felt that they were now under protection of the United States and other nations that signed the Budapest Memorandum. And the United States, we felt like maybe this was, I don't know, an important political document or something, but it certainly didn't seem to carry the level of guarantee that Ukrainian people expected from the United States. And so now, when the United States is offering guarantees, yes, on one hand, that's all Zelensky seems to be talking about is guarantee, guarantee, guarantee. Like he's buying a tape deck and then he would like to get a 2-year protection. Tape decks may not be available in 2 years, but that's a different conversation. So demanding guarantees from Donald Trump also is a very questionable idea because the guarantee, it's just two incompatible ideas in the first place. And in addition to all of this, if United States wants to be considered a respectable player, if we're talking about cards, then you got to show that you have some cards that you're willing to use not just to help Russia, but also to help Ukraine. And if United States considers right now that all the help that we're able to provide is to resume help that already Biden administration agreed to provide, yes, Ukraine will say thank you very much, but it doesn't build any trust whatsoever going forward that Trump administration will actually do anything to provide any guarantee of security of Ukraine going forward. And that means that the guarantee is not really worth the paper it's written on. I'm sure it's going to be very nice paper with yellow label. It's going to be great. We'll say Trump all over everything. But then what? Because it's easy for United States to say, you know what, Ukraine, you should give those 4 territories to Russia, and Ukraine, you should stop trying to build up your armed forces. You should really lay down your weapons. And what kind of an agreement is this? And also say that there should be immediately elections because we don't like your president. We want a new president. It's a really misunderstanding of how things work on a very fundamental level. If I don't give you anything of value, then I have very little influence on you. But if I give you things of value, then I can take things away. I can give you more things in the future. Then things I have to say have some kind of influence and impact on you. And if Trump doesn't understand that he lost the trust with Ukrainians, then it's important for Ukrainians to understand that, to remember that feeling and not, I guess, and not forget it, because I think Ukrainians would really like to have good relationship with the United States. They really, really would. And they would really like to feel like they can rebuild the relationship with any president of the United States. Except that this president of the United States is sending a very clear message that he just doesn't care what happens to Ukraine going forward, and perhaps if it is part of Russian Empire going forward, well, then so the better, as far as the American president is concerned, who is mostly concerned about having good relationship with president of Russia. So security guarantees from this person, I feel like Ukraine is in a tough spot, and it's important to maintain the best possible relationship with the United States, with the understanding that United States government is working very closely with the government of Russia, and government of Russia clearly has nothing good for Ukraine in mind, and therefore neither do other countries that work with it. We don't expect North Korea to be suddenly like, maybe we can pry North Korea away from China or from, no, we don't think that, but yet we think that with Donald Trump we should be able to do that. This is not North Korea. We're America, of course, very different. And if somebody wants to keep trying to pry Donald Trump away from Vladimir Putin, then I feel, on one hand, sure, it's a free country. They can do that. But if they're serious, it seems like it's a waste of time and effort and energy, because really the solution for Ukraine going forward is Europe, is other countries around the world besides Europe that care about protecting their democracy. It's not about the secret to future success of Ukraine does not lie right now in rebuilding its relationship with the United States. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm. You're right, and I think this situation isn't just about cards, it's also about democracy and justice. Today, the New York Times reported that the US is leaving the international group investigations Russians' war crimes in Ukraine. This could suggest letting Putin avoid accountability. Could this actually be true? Does it fit with democracy well? Is this the kind of democracy the United States wants for itself and the rest of the world?
I think it's important to understand that right now the United States is shifting its value system. It's attempting, at least, to shift its value system. And if that sounds like a lot of work,